Oh, you think Pedro Pascal being cast as Reed Richards was an odd choice because you think they're appealing to an audience that is oddly obsessed with the actor? Yeah, well, here's the thing. Picture this. You're best friends with one of the smartest people alive since college, and that same friend has been bringing you along in their adventures in the science industry. He then brings you on an adventure out into space to be the pilot of his ship to the space station that you will be observing a cosmic wave pass. But with this natural phenomenon not being as predictable as originally thought, it's the station you, your said best friend, and other of your friends are stationed in, with you taking the brunt of the damage because you were outside and later back on Earth. As you think you've fully recovered, you decide to help said best friend steal back his college sweetheart from that douchebag roommate that you never really liked. But your body decides to mutate into some kind of rock-like creature, where it not only turns the city against you and sees you as a freak of nature, but your disloyal wife to abandon you throughout these trying times. That would suck, wouldn't it? Well, our boy Ben Grimm has been dealing with this issue ever since he's gotten his powers in the events of the Fantastic Four. Funny enough, would you believe me if I said that Fantastic Four from the 2005s is actually a Thing movie? Oh yeah, I know, it's absurd. The Thing, the main focus of the 2005 Fantastic Four movie that you watched as a kid and you didn't realize it up until this video. But Greg, the movie is called Fantastic Four. Isn't it supposed to be the Fantastic Four is actually the main focus? Have you even watched the movie? I actually have. And let's be honest, they focused on the Thing way more than they should have. And here's why. How does a movie about the Fantastic Four only focus on one of their fan favorites when it's supposed to be focused on all four? In today's cult meeting, we're going to be breaking down the Fantastic Four movie of 2005, how it was basically a solo Thing movie, and highlight what the Thing had to go through in his early years of the first family of Marvel Comics. But before getting into today's cult meeting, leaving a like would be awesome as it gets the video out there, and subscribing will help the channel grow as we are growers and not showers. Also, if you'd like to support this channel even more, we have a Patreon where I'll be posting the director's cut of these videos because, the copyright system's a little bitch, and I'm on my last year of college, and it ain't exactly cheap. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky for updates on what I got in store for you. Now, before diving into the nit and gritty of all of it, if you haven't seen the Fantastic Four of 2005, which is odd, I highly recommend you guys go check it out. Or if you already have, here's a quick summary of the whole movie. Ben and Reed are looking to pitch something to Victor Von Doom, sexual tension between Reed and the woman of the streets. In the Ultimates universe, they get a crew together consisting of Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, and Sue and Captain America, aka Johnny Storm.
Avengers Flame on! Sorry, what now?
Arriving at the station, the gang has 9 hours till the storm hits, so everyone does their own thing, as Ben goes out to plant some flowers. Turns out, it's not 9 hours, they got 7 minutes.
Fuck Microsoft!
Reed tries to pull Ben back into the station, but he's too far, so Johnny tells him to jump. But the cosmic storm gives him the backshot of the century, and hits everyone in the station as well. Waking back up on Earth, Johnny trolls him thinking he mutated, but psych! Fake out! Ben goes to check on Reed, who still got the hots for Zoom, so he sets them up for a dinner later on the compound. But he actually had bad shrimp, so he runs off. He mutates, Reed uses his powers to open the door, but Ben has escaped. Struggling to use a payphone to call his wife, she comes down and is horrified by what she sees. This breaks Ben's heart as he tries to end things on a bridge, but he ends up saving a man from jumping off too, but ends up causing chaos on the bridge by himself. He ends up saving much more people than he should have, with the team accompanying him as the rest arrive to save the day. We get a montage of them in the Baxter building. Johnny goes out and fuck around and find out. He gives Ben the name we all know him for, The Thing, as he gives the rest of the team their known names. The gang pull up and Ben turns Johnny's car into a tin can. Fight. He vents his frustration out to Sue, and he drops one of the saddest lines in cinema.
Susie, look at me. You got no idea what I'd give to be invisible.
Cliche, I know, but if you know what the thing is going through, this actually hits harder than you think. He then goes to his hometown bar, he breaks a glass as a blind woman approaches him, and Ben falls hard. Hard. After falling for this woman, Reed nearly perfects the cure for their problem. But instead, he decides to go out on a date with Sue Storm. Understandable. Victor manipulates the thing to get Reed to speed up the process, and it ends up with a quarrel between the besties. Fight. Ben leaves the team. Reed tests out the machine because of this. It fails horribly. Victor watches this from his office, convincing Ben to go into the machine. It almost fails up until Victor shoves his hands into the reactor, curing Ben of his Rocky mutation. Surprise, surprise! Victor tries to kill Ben as he fully transforms into Dr. Doom. He kidnaps Reed and freezes him as he fires a missile at the Baxter building, knowing it'll track Johnny's seat signature. Johnny finally learns how to fly as he ignites a garbage truck that is hopefully unmanned, making Vic think that he's dead. Sue tries to free Reed but fails horribly as...
No, Vic. It's clobbering time.
Fight, the Fantastic Four! Ben and the gang celebrate their victory as Ben finally gets his happy ending. Thus, the Fantastic Four becomes everyone's childhood movie next to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Ghost Rider. Now notice how the summary of this movie mostly revolved around the Thing? Yeah, well, that's because the Thing had the most character arc in this entire film. Throughout the movie, the Thing was the most engaging and intriguing character. Let's face it, Johnny had some character, sure, but he always reverted back to the snarky brother that wants nothing but to live his life to the fullest. Sue was the dumb, hot blonde of the group, and Reed doesn't get more character depth until the second movie. All we get for Sue and Reed is that they have history together, a past fling from college. Ben, on the other hand, a decorated military pilot that accompanies his friend into space because he has the exact skills his team needs. Protects his nerd bestie whenever Vic tries to talk down to him or just straight up being a dick. Has a fiance back at home and supports him and his friendship with Reed as soon as he gets his powers. He loses his fiance, his strength is too much for what he's used to, and realizes out of the four, he's the only one that's been heavily changed by the storm. They can turn their powers on and off whenever they want to. But Ben is stuck in this orange rock form for the rest of his life. His entire life has been permanently altered because of the storm. And for the first few years of being the Thing, he struggled with this. This film highlights the exact struggles that Ben goes through, but in a very decent way. My only gripe I have with Ben scenes are the cinematography and the scoring. But I'm gonna give Sony the benefit of the doubt. It was 2005 and superhero movies weren't as big as they are now. Out of the four characters, I felt like Ben Grimm was the most, how do I say this, human. Everyone is getting these powers and everyone is flaunting them around, especially Johnny. Reed has better control of his powers as he goes through the movie. Sue learns how to control his powers and falls in love more with Reed. But Ben is more focused on getting cured. Everyone is coming to terms with their powers slowly, even though they don't want to think that they are, especially Reed. Ben just wants to go back to how life was before the accident. And at the end of the movie, he just comes to terms with it. This is his life now. And then he realizes it's not that bad. Fantastic Four 2005 highlighted the humanity of Ben Grimm. He was the most human out of the four. Reed and Sue would like to think that they want to go back to normal and they're doing this for the sake of curing them. But the more you watch this movie, the more they come to terms with it. And the more you watch it, the more and more you see how much Ben misses being normal. And that's heartbreaking. Because as his friends are getting used to this power that they've gained through this accident, he struggles to simply go out and enjoy himself at a bar. And the only person that really loves him for who he is and doesn't see him as a freak is a blind woman at a bar that doesn't mind how he looks. And all that matters is the guy that he is on the inside. His frustrations are later amplified by Victor Von Doom when he gets manipulated, which leads him to turn on the team, making him believe that they completely forgot about Ben in their sweet life. It takes his best friend's life for him to realize that, sure, there could be a cure down the line, but this is the situation for now. And right now, this is the best course of action. Maybe, just maybe, the Thing is much needed compared to Ben Grimm. I'll give them that, sure. But if this movie was made today and they kept what they were going for in this movie, it would have been praised by the general audience and comic book fans alike. At least I believe so. I also noticed that the movies were jumping around a lot, jumping from scene to scene, jumping from one to another, and obviously Fox or Sony couldn't keep their grubby mitts off the production, and it bombed in the box office. And the story got dragged through the mud so much to the point where the people didn't bother watching the second movie. But despite the critic scores and the reviews, I see what they were trying to go for here. Fantastic Four was the start of the development of Marvel's first family. Fantastic Four introduced the 4 characters of the franchise, and they were going to develop them deeper and deeper into each individual characters throughout their sequels. Well, assumed sequels, we all know how that went. This was the start of their said franchise, with the fan favorite of the Marvel community. The Thing has been a fan favorite of mine, personally. My infant brain could not process what I was watching when I saw this on TV. But going back to watch this for this specific video, and because the Fantastic Four are coming to Rivals, and The Thing is coming this mid-season, I started to understand why we all loved him. We don't just like him because of his brute strength and his near invulnerability. We love him because he's the most intriguing character of the 4. Out of all of them, in the beginning, Ben Grimm had the worst time of his life with his powers. He lost everything. His looks, his wife, and the luxury of living a normal life. Him and his entire team mutate, sure, but at least they can live something that resembles a normal life. Ben couldn't. In the comics, Reed makes a device where Ben can transform back into his human forms for a week, and in another comic, he can switch between his human form, his Thing form, and a new form he gains for almost sacrificing himself for Sue Storm. Now, I don't remember the specific issues of this. I see this online everywhere, so if you know these specific issues of the Fantastic Four, do leave them in the comments below, as I do love reading comics, and I love buying the physical copies. And in the most recent comic that I've read, the future Fantastic Four meet our Fantastic Four because time travel. This Thing can switch between his human form and his Thing form like Bruce Banner and the Hulk. But those are videos, well, for another time. All in all, the Fantastic Four of 2005 was mediocre. But that doesn't mean there wasn't anything good about it. I loved what they did and what they were trying to do with the franchise. And starting off with The Thing was really smart. I just hope that the reboot gives The Thing justice, especially our boy Ben. The Thing is a fan favorite for a reason. Not because he's the muscle of the team, but because he's the most relatable. But that's all I got for you in today's episode. What are your thoughts? Do you think the 2005 Fantastic Four movie did The Thing justice? Or am I just riding the nostalgia train way too hard? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Now, just letting y'all know, I'll be uploading in my free time because Capstone is an absolute pain, so I hope y'all understand, college isn't exactly easy. But that's all from your boy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.